And all of this coming as once again, President Trump has chosen to inject himself into this political campaign. It has been a big issue throughout the last couple of weeks. It has dominated the issue, Canadian sovereignty, Trump insulting Canadians by talking about us joining the U.S., Trump talking Canada, our car industry, steel, aluminum, a trade war. And once again, the president today suggesting that Canada should join the U.S. He doesn't need Canadian cars, and on it goes. Let's bring in CTV News political commentator Scott Reid as we enter the final stretch. 4 days to go here, my friend, in this race. Your take on exactly what this is going to mean now. Once again, President Trump talking about Canadian sovereignty.
Well, if we go according to Hoyle, every time Trump reinserts himself into our election, it underscores the issue of economic management, it underscores the issue of leadership, and it underscores the issue of experience and temperament. And all of those things break in favor of Mark Carney. All those issue sets are possessed, according to pollsters, basically throughout the campaign. They tell us that Mark Carney owns those issue sets. So this is probably to the advantage of the governing Liberals. Goodness knows if it has any advantage whatsoever for the country as a whole, given that Trump's decided to place us back up on his bulletin board. I thought it was notable, Todd, and I don't know if you agree, but I thought it was notable how measured Mark Carney was in his comments back. He did not leap on this like it was some kind of late day election gift. He didn't look like he was trying to exploit it. If anything, he was almost apolitical in his reaction. He was very measured, and I thought that was interesting. And it just makes me wondering, coupled with yesterday him talking about the necessity of whoever becomes prime minister after the election sitting down as soon as possible with Donald Trump, makes me wonder if he's already thinking ahead about how to manage the Oval Office.
I want to get your read, too, because at this event that we're showing, well, in Coquitlam anyway, earlier today, Mark Carney was asked about recent reports in the, the French wing of the CBC, Radio-Canada, that apparently his call with Trump last month did not go as well as he seemed to suggest it went. And he was just getting hammered with questions in English and French on this, yes, by Radio-Canada, but also by the Canadian press and other media who seemed to be trying to get him to admit that, in fact, it didn't go that smoothly. Your take on what that means?
Bob's your uncle. Who knows exactly what it means? It's fascinating, I think, in many respects. You could actually, if you wanted to be very crass about it, if you want to be extraordinarily partisan about it, you could see him saying that that's to his advantage. You could see him saying, listen, maybe I did cut the corners a little bit. Maybe it was a more aggressive conversation. But you know what? I'm not going to take any guff from Donald Trump, and Canada doesn't deserve to. He didn't do that. He didn't attempt to turn this into a political dunk. So you can see, like, who knows exactly how the conversation went and what exactly the tone was. One imagines that any conversation with Donald Trump is a roller coaster ride. But again, it is interesting the choices he's making. Even as we see, according to Nick Nanos, the polls tightening slightly, he doesn't appear to be trying to exploit this relationship with Trump, this challenge with Trump, and to the greatest degree possible. You can see that he's thinking almost as a prime minister first and a candidate for prime minister second. At least that's my reading.
What about the Conservatives and doing a lot better in the polling as we look at the Nanos numbers again, if we can just bring them up, quickly to give our viewers a sense that we've seen sort of this uptake quite a bit of the Conservatives in the last couple of days, and now we're seeing this 3 points, and the race is tightening. What's the takeaway there?
A couple of things. First of all, water to a thirsty man if you're Pierre Poilievre. I mean, you've seen not just party numbers rising, but also his personal standing in terms of who do you prefer most for prime minister. So those are two, very positive measures for him. And as you're going in to the final days, I think, they can look at this and say, well, we have some hope. We have some momentum here. The challenge for them is that in the very seat-rich provinces of Ontario and Quebec, they still seem to be behind 7, 8, 9 points, even more according to some polls. Will those gaps shift? The irony is that the modern Conservative Party rarely tops 39%. And that would, in any normal circumstance, any typical election post-war, be enough you would assume that they are winning a government, probably a majority government. But in this circumstance, with the collapse of the NDP and the Bloc, it still means that they're behind someone who's got 43, 44%. So can they close that gap, not just nationally, but critically, can they close that gap in these final few days in the province of Ontario in particular? If they can, then they have a shot at all those seats in the Golden Horseshoe, in the 905, and all the way down to Niagara, Hamilton area. If they can't close that gap, they will lose.
Scott Reid with his take. We'll talk again soon. Thanks for this.
Thank you.